From behind the scenes of YouTube creators Legion Gaming to Hytale's gameplay elements, graphic design, and more. Don't miss out on the latest on Hycast, starting right now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Hycast, the premier Hytale podcast. I'm your host Fezzi, and today we're joined by Livid Lion from Legion Gaming. Welcome to the podcast. We're glad to have you with us today.
Hey there, how's it going, guys?
Hey, so could you give us a little breakdown on who you are within the Hytale space?
So my name is Anthony, and I go by Livid. And within the Hytale community, I kind of first ran a channel by the name of the Livid Lion. I approach videos in like a strictly factual, analytical fashion and use like motion graphics skills to make sure all my videos are kind of a high level and polished to them. I'm a Hytale lore enthusiast and overall just a giant fan of the creative aspects in Minecraft, so that kind of easily translates into what Hytale is quickly shaping up to be. So currently I merged my channel with Codiak, and we're now Legion Gaming, so that's kind of where we're at right now and how people kind of know me.
Cool. Yeah, so let's touch on that a little bit, like YouTube and the merge with Codiak and Legion Gaming. So you're a creator within a YouTube channel called Legion Gaming, which you run alongside Codiak. What caused you to merge your channel with Codiak, and how did you go around merging the Game Gurus and Livid Lion into a single entity?
So we both kind of saw an opportunity really early on. We noticed each other's channels, and we just kind of started talking very early on, like kind of as soon as I started. So we were talking for roughly about a year, right? So in retrospect, we totally should have kind of just pulled the trigger immediately and just jumped into partnership together. But we kind of just felt out, where our channels kind of were individually. And we just found that we're both incredibly like passionate in the content that we produce, and we have like a really high standard for what we do. So both of us kind of aim to cover very similar topics in the same kind of space, but each of us kind of have our own like potent skill sets. So we decided that we could really work, twice as efficiently and get like twice the output and cover the same kind of content in a more rapid fashion. So that way our vision for a channel as a whole, and also essentially we understand where we're going in the YouTube landscape. So overall, it's been like an immensely beneficial partnership between us. We've established kind of like our own set of internal guidelines for everything we do. We curate and create like on a daily basis, shared asset library. Since we work like day jobs on opposite shifts, we're able to kind of flexibly cover content in almost like a 24-hour manner by working together, as opposed to, if we're lucky, 8 hours, out of our day. So finding that right partner for building a YouTube channel, I found that this was like probably one of the most beneficial things that we could have done.
Yeah, it's really important finding something that works, especially it's especially hard on YouTube, I think, because because of course, if you try to get content out a lot, you need to have like a pretty well-oiled machine working behind the scenes, and it's good to hear that you guys have that. Because
100%.
Yeah, because it's really a good thing. So merging two pre-existing YouTube channels and communities must have been pretty difficult and a lot of work. So what were the biggest challenges that you and Codiak had to overcome, and how did you resolve them?
So in order to like merge our channels, like first and foremost, it was kind of a 2-month endeavor behind the scenes where Codiak kind of just focused on keeping to produce content for the channel to keep up the analytics and everything going, for YouTube, while I was like hardcore focused in like the branding aspects. And we kind of laid out our timeline for the year. We designed our entire brand from the ground up. We made guidelines and graphics that adhere to a strict kind of like guideline, right? So that way we can pump out a stabilized and a smooth workflow. And we tried our best to let our community know well ahead of time, like during those months, but we didn't want to give too many details, just let them know that a big change was coming. And our biggest challenge was honestly just pure time. There really aren't enough hours in a day when working another job and being married, the both of us, that allows for like this kind of level of commitment, but we do our best to kind of make that work. And that's just kind of, we bounce things off each other at a very rapid speed, and we're very good about communicating. So like our personalities and goals kind of just mesh really well. And on top of the fact that both of us we're very open and direct with each other, and we kind of keep feelings completely out of discussions, which is nice. Like we both kind of understand that, and we're just very factual in how we approach everything. Like, will this work? No. Okay. Don't feel bad about it. Move to the next thing, so as a result, everything just kind of works. So I would say like, the biggest challenge is just time, honestly.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Especially, I mean, having a whole like you said, having that whole like basically separate life around that, because I've of course I've seen Legion. There's a lot of work behind it, and that's really impressive actually that you manage that, and
it's difficult.
Yeah, I can see that, so that's pretty cool. Now, a defining trait of Legion Gaming is that it's a multi-purpose gaming channel covering a wide variety of games. Assuming Hytale is successful, do you expect your channel to become more Hytale centric over the years, or will you maintain a very high level of variety?
So I'll say that we definitely are always going to keep a high level of variety. Our channel will always have like deep roots stemming from Hytale, and we aim to like really build a large community around each game that we focus heavily on. And Hytale is something really special to us. Like, especially to me, we will always have Hytale content on our channel. We have like plans for a lot of things, some of which we can't really speak about yet because we don't like to make promises before we have things 100% can be done. Yeah. But I think the things that we're going to approach, we're going to have kind of a unique take on a lot of things like a Hytale server, but other things such as, like doing build guides, exploration videos, kind of constant like news updates. And there's just a lot more that we can work on behind the scenes that we're going to be covering. So there's going to be a huge focus on our channel of Hytale. Like it's one of our big communities. It's one that we both are really passionate about, and we like the progress that's going on with it. So I think until the end of time, we'll be covering Hytale on our channel, but there's definitely going to be a huge variety going forward still.
All right. So is there any kind of specific, or is it a little too early to say, like Hytale content that you would be doing on Legion?
It's still kind of too early just because I want to like actually get into the game and like a beta or whatever and just kind of see what are the tools that we have to work with, what needs to be developed behind the scenes to enable those kind of things. We want to keep stuff at our same level of quality in our videos. So like we're not ones that are just going to pump stuff out just because like the game's in beta. Like we want to make sure that what we cover has a consistent style and a consistent look and pacing to it. So we want to make sure that the tools that we have at our disposal enable us to do that kind of thing. So like, the big thing that I'm personally really going to focus on is I used to do a lot of building. I used to actually do some stuff for Fire UK. I ran a server. I was a mod on 3 other servers in Minecraft. Like this was like 8+ years ago, right? Because I stopped playing Minecraft at a certain point just because college took over and all those kind of life things. But I'm a huge person in like the building kind of community. I love that stuff. And I'm like super detailed when it comes to that. So like, I'll definitely be doing like build guides on how to build certain things and like styles and all that kind of stuff. So that's like definitely my take of thing. And I know Codiak is going to be really focused on, he's really good at guides and like beginner content and bosses and stuff like that. So I know he's going to focus heavily on like those kind of videos, but we have other plans for like big community things that we want to focus on as well.
Cool. Yeah. So I understand that, like with Horizon, which is a server that I was going to be running. We had to kind of go on hiatus because we just don't know enough about Hytale yet. So it makes sense. It makes perfect sense that you got to wait a little while. But that's cool to hear that you're into building because that's definitely going to be a big focus, I think, in Hytale. So
I hope so too.
Yeah. So anyway, being a creator on YouTube can be tough with a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that is rarely seen, appreciated and often neglected or ignored. So do you agree with this statement about like people not really understanding how much goes on behind a YouTube video? What are your thoughts regarding YouTube and being a creator on the platform?
Yeah, I 100% actually agree with that statement. A lot of people see the content YouTubers put out, especially ours, and we've gotten responses, and they kind of automatically assume that this is the only thing we do, like this is our job. And I can tell you from experience, balancing a 10 to 12 hour workday, 6 days a week, family life, personal responsibilities, and then running a YouTube channel like ours on top of it is as if it was like our only job, because that's the kind of like level we want to put it at. It's really taxing and tiring. And there's days where I get very little sleep just maintaining this kind of thing. So, I mean, if it wasn't for the amazing people that we've met along the way that like help us out, and especially people in our community where they can, this would be very much a struggle. I think the demands of like the algorithm requiring daily content to keep you afloat can be absolutely insane. Oh yeah. Especially at the graphics level we try to maintain within our videos. Because like something versus like a vlog where someone just goes out, records themselves, and then bumps up the audio and pumps it out. Like that is a much easier process than making a whole graphic video that's 10 minutes long.
Right.
So there's a big process to that. So I don't really know how they could adjust it and make it fair to all types of content, but it's an incredibly tiring process nonetheless.
Yeah, the algorithm is really brutal, and it kind of just expects, like, it really only likes, just watch time and consistency, like, all the time. Like it's annoying, and it really makes it hard for creators that are really just quality focused like you, because it just wants whatever it can bring to an advertiser.
It's ravenous.
So,
it's absolutely ravenous.
Of course, yeah, and it's awful. So for this, if there's one change you could make to YouTube, AdSense, algorithm, anything like that, what would it be and why?
So I mean, I have several points on that, but if there was like one thing I could make to,
you can go through all of them if you want.
if there's one change I can make to YouTube in general, I think it would 100% be a way to actually merge YouTube channels together and their content. Because as it stands right now, there's not a way. Like, you have to just completely abandon one and reformat another, or just start from scratch all over and lose all that work that you've done. So as it stands, like, we're still working on readjusting some of my old videos to now live on Legion Gaming, so that, like, I have to go back through and I'm re-recording certain things, re-editing certain stuff to be in our style and all that kind of stuff, right? So it would have been like 100 times less stressful and a much smoother process if we could have just slammed the two channels together and there was like an archived old library of stuff that people can go through, so that content still lives on even while we're moving forward, because you lose all that AdSense and revenue from all those previous videos you did when you terminate that channel.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like the whole established following you have for certain games, it's very hard to move them over. So I would just say that I think they need to do a better way of making it easier for people to collaborate and partner up, because it's an extremely beneficial thing. And I think the other thing that I would 100% want them to change is that 2-minute premiere countdown after people are already waiting for a premiere to start. That thing absolutely annoys me to no end, because I don't understand why there's a countdown and then another countdown. And the fact that you can't even change how that looks, and it's always the same thing of this. Like, I understand, like, it's all designy and artistic, but it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't feel branded. And I've seen people leave just because they look at that and they go, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why there's not a way for creators to control that and like do their own kind of branding for premieres, so that way they understand what they're doing.
Yeah, I totally get that. I actually really, I've never heard that point of view about merging channels, because that would be useful in so many scenarios. We all know about the Vivo channels and how like many of them there are. If there was a way you could create like one, maybe a network or something, right? That just, they're all like pulled together and all the resources are there. That is a very interesting point of view that I haven't heard before. So that'd be cool to see on YouTube. It
would help so many people out. Like the barrier to collaboration is so high, because nobody wants to abandon all that work they put in.
Right. Exactly.
And nobody wants to go through and really rework everything they've done just for it to live somewhere else. Like it's a huge process and a pain point, I think, for a lot of people.
That is definitely an interesting perspective. I think that's something that would be really cool to see. Now, of course, YouTube is YouTube, so we have to just hope that something like that happens.
They do what they want. Yeah,
they kind of just work on whatever. So anyway, let's touch a little bit about gameplay elements within Hytale. Kind of returning back to the Hytale side of things. So Hytale is a highly customizable game with many genres and game modes appearing to be possible within it. So once creators have had a chance to establish their projects, what do you think will be the most appealing genre in Hytale? Shooters, mini games? What do you think?
I think the two most appealing genres, like in Hytale, after the modding scene is kind of like unleashed onto the world, will be mini games and maybe like the RPG MMO iterations. And I think the simple reason for that is ease of access, because people can just get in, spend 5 minutes and play a mini game, right? Or they can get in and spend a longer time and really work towards building a real sense of community and meeting new people. So I think those two will be the most popular for that reason alone. And I think those two criteria, if met, are pretty much the recipe for success for any sort of game modes or servers or things like that are just introduced into the community. I think because you want people to be able to make it easy for them. Don't make them do a lot of work thinking of how to get to things. Everything needs to be easy. Like, you can make systems complex, but you can also make them, the barrier to entry, each one of those systems, very easy. And then making sure people have a place to really feel like they're welcome and there's a community being built from that makes people return. So as long as those two things exist, I think that'll be successful. So
that's actually really interesting, like kind of dynamic you mentioned there, is like hopping into a mini game server for 5 minutes and then just like wanting to get engrossed in some kind of like RPG and then just like swapping over to this grand like experience. That's definitely something I haven't like seen before in really any game. So that I think could be, like you said, like a really big, like that could be a make it or break it moment if you can just do that like on a dime. So
right, I think that's like a huge pillar of game design that a lot of games fail to touch on.
Yeah.
So
variety and like instant variety.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So before the interview, you told us that RPGs, ARPGs, looter shooters, and MMOs are your favorite types of games to play. With this in mind, what type of content are you personally most excited for in Hytale, and what role, if any, has Minecraft had in that judgment?
That's a really good question. I honestly don't know I don't know right off the bat, but like kind of like the building, combat, story, and world gen all seem to be kind of like vastly improved things from say Minecraft that really are a huge interest point for me in Hytale, especially like the building and the story aspect. Because like when I was younger playing Minecraft, I could just get lost and I didn't mind about story. But like as I've gotten older now, I get very bored with games that are just too open-ended and there's nothing that's really like a guiding point. You know what I mean? So like the fact that Hytale wants to have kind of, you know, landmarks and progression as you're going through, even in like a survival aspect, like things to chase and things to do, like you have a clear objective of what you want to do. I think that's the thing that's going to be most exciting to me within Hytale. So I think those are the experiences that I would look for, you know, making sure the building's really solid, making sure the combat is immersive enough that it's not just plain, but there's like a little bit of like skill to it, you know. Right. If you can master the skill, like you'll have a much more enjoyable like PvP experience or even PvE experience, you know. And then just making sure the story is pretty solid given its you know, it's random generation, you know, every time you play. So
yeah, I can 100% attest to the story thing. I found myself a lot more recently, I'd say, kind of just looking for something like with some meat to it. Like, you know what I mean? Something with some lore to it, something you can kind of invest yourself in, because there isn't a ton of games that come out anymore that are like that. I think like one of the more like recent examples of that is something like Death Stranding or Jedi Fallen Order that has like meat, something there, you know, instead of kind of because a lot of games I feel like are almost like mini game servers, but you know, $60. Like you hop in for 10 minutes, you shoot something, there's a microtransaction, you leave. So it's definitely, I can definitely attest to like hoping Hytale has like some kind of storyline behind it that you can like follow and get involved in, because you know that can contribute to a lot of it'd be new, it'd be something fresh that we haven't seen in a while, and it would be pretty immersive. So definitely,
I think
definitely
so
I can attest to that. So while Hytale does appear to be great, it will probably not be a 100% perfect game. Obviously, every game has its flaws. Are there any gameplay elements, features, or tools that you think Hytale will be missing, which would be otherwise beneficial for the community?
I think they've touched on a lot of good points already. Like I think they're very cognizant of the community interaction in general. I don't know if there's any tools that are really necessarily missing, because they've already got the things in place for modding that I've seen, like, you know, the developer side of things for scripting, the ease of access for creating models, animations, stuff like that. I think the main thing that I would be concerned about is making sure that the process of as you're making stuff and having a place to immediately test it, aside from like owning your own server, right? If there is a place that you can test your stuff out before implementing it server side, I think that would be a huge feature.
True. That
I think would be important, you know, because it's one thing to have your server, you make the asset, you import it over, you play with it, versus like I build this, I can jump into like a kind of like a little sandbox area and make sure this kind of functions and works correctly. So like I think that would be a huge pain point, I think, for most modders, and I think it would make their lives a lot easier. But aside from like in-game elements, I don't think that there's much that we're missing. Actually, I think they have a lot of things that they've promised that seem to kind of like squash my worries and concerns with just about every aspect. So
yeah, I think Hytale's been pretty good about covering like all the bases in terms of, you know, customization tools. And, you know, I think the only thing that we haven't seen feature wise is, you know, the actual mechanics of the game.
right.
We haven't seen much combat, you know, we haven't seen much gameplay. We know a lot about the tools, but we don't know, you know, what, you know, basis the tools are running off of yet. So
Right.
I'd say that, like, personally, but they've been pretty good about like covering most things, I'd say, because they, you know, they, without spoiling too much, of course, because that's something they've wanted to avoid. But yeah, I agree with that.
I feel like after summer they'll probably hit us with a ton of content that kind of squashes those concerns.
Probably. Yeah. And I think as like beta comes closer, we'll be getting a lot more snippets of information as well.
Oh, definitely. Places that, you know,
so-
people can give feedback and all that stuff. I think it'd be really
Right.
good.
I think that is true, though, that there should be like kind of a testing place for different assets that you're creating, because
Yeah.
there's not many games that have that. It's usually they're just like, here's a plane, do something on it, and test that's basically, they give you a plane to build everything off of. Whereas I haven't
Yeah.
actually seen like an individual testing place in a lot of kind of creation based games or engines. Even they just kind of are like, here's a flat plane, do something. So
Yeah.
that'd be definitely cool to see some kind of training or not training, sorry, some kind of testing facility or testing plane. So definitely something cool, good idea. So
Yeah.
moving on a little bit here.